This episode is about minutes 121 through 125 of The Rise of Skywalker with returning guest Ender Smith. Hello there, and welcome to Star Wars Music Minute, where we celebrate the music and sound of Star Wars 5 cinematic minutes at a time. I'm Chrysanthi Tan, feel free to call me Xanthi, and today is all about minutes 121 through 125 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. In this excerpt of the film, we win. The Emperor is destroyed, the Sith Auditorium is destroyed, the Steadfast is destroyed, and Rey dies, Ben resurrects her, they kiss, and then Ben dies. Today's guest is type designer, graphic designer, musician, Ender Smith, whom you may know as AurekFonts. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Happy
you
to
made
be
me
here.
laugh before we started, because I always give the spiel to guests. Let me do a pre-intro. Then there's going to be I'm going to hold space for the music. And I just keep thinking about the Wicked memes about holding space. But anyway, here we are talking about this very climactic moment of the film, probably a moment of the film that surprised a lot of people. It kind of surprised me. And then also, we happen to be talking about the minute that is my favorite number, 121. So congratulations for being assigned that number.
It's an honor.
Good. Do you want to jump right into the minutes, or do you want to give high-level thoughts first?
I'm okay with jumping right into the minutes. There will be high-level thoughts, I'm sure, but I think it's interesting we start at a minute 120. Palpatine explodes.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that happens.
Yeah, let me actually put something on screen to show. Well, that's Rey with the two lightsabers, and then I guess I don't really have an image of Palpatine exploding. It's so quick. But at the very, very end of the last minutes, we were seeing the disintegrating face, just very graphically doing that. You were...
Yeah, it reminds me... the visual there reminds me of the Raiders of the Lost Ark ending with lots of melty, splody faces. And I wonder if they chose to do that just so that it's clear. No, he's definitely dead this time. We got him. He didn't just fall down a hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, melty, splody faces. That it's kind of the antithesis to, we didn't see the body, or who knows what happened to it. Yeah, it's pretty gruesome, actually. And I kind of like it, seeing the demolition of his corporeal body. So right off the bat, I'm going to start playing from the beginning of these minutes. Course. A little extra bit.
The command ship.
Okay, let's pause there.
Yeah. So I actually transcribed that little extra bit.
Okay.
For us.
Cool. Is that what you sent me?
No, hold on. I'm trying to send you the right one now.
Okay. So during this bit of music, we kind of see would you call it a montage? We see the Sith disciples. Well, okay, Rey does her little energy thing. The Emperor disappears, dies, disintegrates in a very final way. And then we see the disciples, the subtitles say disciples screaming, and we see all those figures in the auditorium apparently dying.
Well, a bunch of them get crushed by parts of the amphitheater crumbling around them. But,
right.
But the novelization does say that some of them escaped down some passageways.
Of course. I think it's funny that we don't.
But in the movie, I thought that they had all died. I thought, oh, they got them all. 100%.
Yeah, me too. I think it's actually until I rewatched this movie, I forgot that we actually see the disciples, like, because it also would have worked for me if they were just heard and not seen. Like, it's enough to just hear them and then have their maybe spirits around or whatever. But like the fact that they're actually tangibly in here.
Yeah, so I think the lore is that they also built the Star Destroyers for the Final Order.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that there's a lot of
army.
people.
Yeah, and they have like nothing else to do, so
yeah,
I guess they have time for that.
I guess.
Yeah. We also see Janna doing the thingy thing that makes the thing explode, that makes that saves the day, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how percussive the turbo laser sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not the way that they sounded in the original trilogy. And it's a little bit not the way that they sounded in the prequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they have overall become more conventional weapon sounding. I said conventional weapon sounding, like they sound like a real cannon. And this happens with some of the blasters as well. There's less of the pew pew sound and more of a like punchy explosion-y sound. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, you're not the first person who has brought that point up. Not everyone says it in the same way, but definitely just the lasers and the cannons sound different. The thing that Janna does is she connects the cables on a hijacked laser cannon, which opens fire on the bridge of the command ship. So I guess she like kind of hacks it.
Yeah, and it really does look like a XLR cable extension that she's plugging in there.
Oh, it totally does. No, it really does. It's like a microphone cable. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I want to hear that again. Yeah. It is much more like machine gun, but slower.
More percussion and less
pitch.
More percussion and less pitch. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. The little bit, okay, I'm going to put your transcription. I really like your transcription because it's not actually on staff paper. But I totally understand what you're trying to convey here.
Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that this might be from the end of Vader's funeral.
Huh.
I think that it's actually not. But I did grab the spot where there's this gap in, I think, the melody of the Force theme that invites including another little melodic piece, because
because the note is held.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think that's okay. So there are multiple ways that I can read into this. Like, let's listen to it. Actually, go back a little bit. So, like, is it put there to just fill that space more so that we don't have to hold that note? Is it like just to add a little bit more interest? Or do you think it's hearkening to something?
Well, I think the places that they get used. What was that?
Sorry, yeah. I pressed something and it made a weird camera turn on. I don't even know what it was showing.
Okay. Yeah, so the I think it's I think it's more than just to fill in the space. I think that it does lend a different emotion to have kind of in a call and response sort of way. Even though it's not responding to a specific melody, the fact that this gets used in different places and it's a different thing, it tends to be kind of a release of emotion before building back up to the climax of the piece. I think of it kind of like a sigh of emotion.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like it does kind of feel like a release in a way. The thing it reminds me of, first of all, it sounds heroic in like more of a military strategy way. I don't know if it's because of like the fourths and fifths or something, because we're just getting the Force theme. So perfect fourth. Okay, the example that I have pulled that it reminds me of is the part from the end of Avengers Endgame, which I have not seen. I just know this music because I feel like it was impossible to not hear this piece of music at the time Avengers Endgame was coming out. I've heard it a lot. I don't know why. I'm going to play from it. And it's not the same notes. So like, but it is also a fifth to a fourth. Just something about it. I can't not hear it as like the Avengers moment.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too, because it's it feels suspendy too. Like it's hitting fourths that resolve down and in a similar way. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something going on. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for validating that.
And I sent the Darth Vader's funeral bit that leads into the celebration.
Okay, so you want to compare that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not the same notes, but it is doing a similar thing in a similar spot.
Interesting. Like right there?
Yeah, actually, I guess it's not as similar as I...
But it is sort of hijacking the Force theme.
Right. It's at the same point where it's like... diverting it into more of a sigh than the soaring climax of the thing. But yeah, it is also, this one is more militaristic, I think.
Yeah. Should we continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think, and then I think it immediately goes into the friendship theme, right?
Victory theme.
Victory theme. Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't know the themes of this one well enough.
Oh, so. Okay. Though I kind of get those two mixed up. They don't sound the same, but they kind of, they're both kind of more positive, happy themes that are from this movie. Okay. General Pride's about to get blown up.
Halt
Good.
the command ship!
The fleet is They're toast! Come on! Finn, you seeing this?
Finn didn't board the lander.
And then we are off to another thing.
Right, it's immediately interrupted.
Yes. Yeah. But the victory theme, I guess I'll put up the bit from Frank Lehman's catalog. We haven't had the victory theme in a while. So is this the first time we've heard it in many episodes? Perhaps. This may even be the first time. This actually might be okay. No, I don't think it's there's so many episodes of this show, I can't get it quite straight. Okay, the other half of the Rise of Skywalker complex, essentially a hymn with slow pace, homophonic texture, with cadential pauses, and highly regular harmonic rhythm. Okay, that's a lot of words. Anticipates and then celebrates Resistance's final victory. Like Friendship, it is prone to modulations and modal inflections, evocative and probably best interpreted as a thematic transformation of raised chimes. So you'll note it goes. And that's kind of like, so I can see it possibly as a transformation of raised chimes. Here we don't have it written as quarter notes. By the way, let me fact check myself. We absolutely have heard the victory theme before. So yeah, anyway. Okay. Here we have the more dotted rhythm. Except we're hearing it in a different key. That's what we are getting at here.
Right.
Okay. I really like this one. And if you have the soundtrack and the track called The Rise of Skywalker, heavily features this victory theme.
Ah.
Yeah. We're going to hear it even more the next set of minutes when they're like actually properly celebrating. But you just a little taste here.
They're still on that command ship?
Little octatonic filigree.
I see him. I'm going to get him.
General, you won't make it.
Trust me, I'm fast.
Not as fast as this ship. Hold on, Chewie.
Okay. There's so much happening because now we're into fast action stuff. I like how quickly after victory, the music just goes like, uh-oh. Like it conveys it so clearly.
Yeah, I wrote it down as friendship interrupted when I thought it was friendship, but it's
Victory interrupted. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a few seconds of the victory theme. And then I have a few notes about the interruption before we get to the Millennium Falcon stuff.
Yeah, do you want to hear this all without the sound design so we can hear the music more clearly? Okay. So I like that. It's like da, 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 da. It's just like hitting a note and then falling a note. Like it's hitting a note and then just falling like a whole step or half step. Or yeah.
So the first bit of that reminds me of the sandstorm from
Attack of the Clones.
From the Phantom Menace.
Sorry. The fact. Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, interesting.
The da 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 da.
Yeah, you're right.
We get just this one motion that's pretty similar, right? At
Okay,
the
wait. Let's.
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then I have And then I have written down triangular suspense. Because recently went to see a Star Wars in concert thing.
Right.
And the one of the number one things that I noticed was how much percussion goes in as an orchestration tool into John Williams's writing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think of his writing as having a lot of brass and really sweeping strings and stuff. And I don't think about the fact that like almost all the time there's some percussion adding texture to things. And this is a very classic way to use a triangle.
Yeah, like
which is just an alarm bell.
mm-hmm.
It just holds on this note and stresses you out.
Yeah, that's what the triangle's job is. It's just stress you out. Let's hear that. Totally. Oh yeah, that's so great. And the beginning of that moment, the music kind of falls. It goes like, nah, like there's kind of I don't know. It feels like it's a Mickey Mouse part, but I don't remember exactly what that corresponds to on screen. But I feel like it's something kind of taking a dive or something.
Yeah, so it's while the Star Destroyer is falling out of the
Finn
sky.
And Janna
I think that I forgot to write this down, what the note is, but the groaning of the Star Destroyer also has like a pitch to it that also fits into that pocket.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that, including in this set of minutes. Yes, okay. So I feel like this happens a lot in Star Wars where, I don't know, characters are falling from things that have tipped. I don't know why that seems so. Maybe I'm just thinking of hanging off of cliffs or something. I'm thinking of Attack of the Clones. I'm thinking of, what else am I thinking of?
Return of the Jedi.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Has various skiffs that tip abruptly, and I feel like it does happen. I think it comes from the adventure film roots of Star Wars, that you got to have people dangling off of things. You got to have stuff falling out from underneath them, and constantly ratcheting up the action-based, the adventure, the need to swing or jump off of things needs to be ever present, so that your characters can swing and jump off of things and look very, very cool.
Yeah. Okay. So after that, I love that.
Yeah. So I also wrote down Mallets as an orchestration tool.
Mm-hmm. And you
where
mean
he'll double, where he will double a melody between strings or winds or brass or all of them, and also glockenspiel or xylophone, or because it adds a crispness, I think, to doing really fast runs.
Yep.
Or a punchiness to kind of the more blasted notes.
Yeah. It's kind of like doing, like if you're drawing with color, it's kind of like adding that like black outline or something. It's like adding a very, yeah. It's like, that part reminds me of Back to the Future.
It does remind me of Back to the Future, but it also, well, that's from episode 1.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
That's
I can't remember what Back to the Future even sounds like.
So I wrote, or I grabbed this also because it was relevant. But I believe that's an intentional reference. I can't drag this over. Hold on. I'll just copy it. I believe it's an intentional reference to part of the asteroid field music.
Oh.
Because this is when the Millennium Falcon is coming in.
We're gonna get pulverized if we stay out here much longer.
You can argue with that.
Pulverized?
I'm going in closer to one of the big ones.
Closer?
So the climb up there. I wish I had grabbed it. Just the music.
That part?
Yeah. So then if you play that part of our minutes.
Yeah, I can hear that. It's not too.
That's what it reminded me of. It's not exactly the same.
It's not. Yeah, it's not evoking the same music, but it's musically. The music is functioning in a similar way.
Well, it's doing an ascending scale and then modulating up and ascending again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I mean is, John Williams is doing the thing where he goes up somehow in a flying, in an exciting, adventurous way, and the way that he's doing it is different in both times. But he's not trying to remind you of the asteroid field. He's doing the same technique here that he did first principles, doing the same thing. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's very possible. Because I think you do see patterns emerge with somebody whose career has spanned as long as John Williams has.
Right.
You can see, oh, you're doing one of those things that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to go back to the minutes now. Of course, Rebel Fanfare.
And then we get a syncopated.
Yep.
And then an extra one. It's da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
each one is a little bit more crammed in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's as Finn and Janna are jumping, and the Steadfast goes down. They've just made it. Lando has saved them. Yeah, what do you think of that moment?
I think that it's fine. It's good. They do a lot to sell how that could physically work with the visuals by having, because the problem is that the Star Destroyer is falling, and it's going to be falling at the rate of gravity, I assume, or close to it. And so that means that if for them to jump off of the Star Destroyer onto the Millennium Falcon also has to be falling at the same rate as the
Star
Destroyer. And they do sell that visually, and I think.
But what about musically? Having a moment with the Rebel Fanfare there.
Yeah, so I have thoughts about that.
Yeah, give me your thoughts.
Is it the Rebel Fanfare theme anymore? Or is it the Millennium Falcon theme? Or is it turning on your side to go through a narrow canyon to escape somebody theme?
Or is it heroics?
Yeah. There's a lot of extra meanings that I think that have kind of attached themselves to.
Yeah, and the same could be said for the main theme.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could also have put here, because that's also become kind of like Millennium Falcon theme, heroics theme.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, I mean, it could come down to just it was easier to slot in Rebel Fanfare here, maybe. But I mean, they are also loosely part of a rebellion thing happening.
Yeah, I mean, they keep calling them rebels, and the audience keeps calling them rebels, and for most purposes, they are rebels.
And it could be that like the younger fighters consider themselves resistance, but since Lando and Chewie are saving the day here, they are rebels.
Right. They're part of the old guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to get a brief rest in the music coming up soon.
Well,
oh, you want to discuss
I actually,
more?
I transcribed the rescue thing. I don't know if I can play it. I just set the transcription.
I'm putting it on screen. Let me see if I know it. Oh yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah.
The top should be an E and an F and a G, but
do you want to play it? It says harmonic minor rescue.
Yeah, let's see if I can. Oh, what's the purple frame?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's hear that again. I think yes.
My rhythms are bad, but
and that's what you mean by harmonic minor?
yeah, that's harmonic minor, which is a modified version of minor.
Mm-hmm.
That
sharp 7.
And is it? Well, sorry. Is it harmonic minor or is it melodic minor? I don't know. I can't remember which one's which.
Harmonic. Melodic would be on the way up and natural on the way down.
Right. So.
Oh.
And then I just kind of squiggled the last.
It does skip a note.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. Instead of, so it's a little bit hidden. And then the squiggles.
Yeah, and then it does some sort of and then a hard rest.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear that again.
In the music.
Yeah. And then we do have this break.
Yeah.
So shall we discuss the, well, okay, there's a few things. First of all, the Abneto pilot that we see, I think we see him again later.
Okay.
No. That is someone voiced by Matt Wood.
Okay.
This one. I don't know how to say his name. Kai?
Kai
Threnali?
Threnali. So what?
Oh, he
what,
says Poe, the command ship.
Right. He says Poe, the command ship. And what's his name a reference to?
That's a good question.
Because all of
Behind the
Abednedos
scenes, let's see.
are named after Beastie Boys songs.
Even outside of The Last Jedi?
No, I think that started with The Force Awakens.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson started it.
No, J.J. Abrams likes the Beastie Boys.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know. Does anyone, okay, I'm sure there are listeners that know this. I know that there are people on the Discord server that know Beastie Boys, for sure, for one. And I cannot find it on Wikipedia readily. Also, is it Abednedo? I don't know why I always say Abnedo.
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm probably wrong. The other thing I want to say, okay, this is more of a high level thought, so maybe I'll save it for the end, for later when we're kind of talking about what is happening here. Yeah, okay. So now we are in the remnants of the Sith Auditorium. Rey drops the lightsaber.
Rey song.
Yep.
No. Rey.
Suspension. Oh, and the no Rey comes from Finn.
Correct. Yeah.
Who senses her while he's on the Falcon.
If the timing of what we are seeing is accurate to the timing of what happens in the movie, then I think that he knew before she died that she was about to die. So that's definite evidence of having the Force.
What do you think you can tell the moment where Rey dies?
I think it's probably before she collapses to the ground, but or maybe just after. But it's again, if the cross-cutting is chronological, I don't think that she's standing for a long time dead. So
yeah. I feel like the way that Rey collapses, she has more tone in her muscles than I would expect someone who is absolutely limply dead would, because her fall isn't as messy as I would expect. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, I think Finn feeling I think the movie is trying to tell us that Finn is feeling the Force here, feeling her through the Force. And so I will just point out that it's not just the Force theme that plays when Finn is having a Force feeling. We've heard we've heard plenty of other music while Finn is having Force feelings. Yeah, because I know that is sometimes, I feel like that's a misrepresentation of what actually happens in the movie. At the beginning, we do get a moment where Finn has a Force feeling, perhaps, and we hear the Force theme, and it is, Sideways would say that maybe that was heavy-handed or something, but like, we do also have other music.
Yeah. I also think that the thudding lightsabers is very interesting because that's very much a subjective sound design choice. That's not how the lightsabers would sound.
Right.
Falling on the ground. And I think that in a previous episode when she called the lightsaber to her, and there's a very dramatic whoa, 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 like whoosh, 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 whoosh sound that's much louder than it should be. I think is also perhaps representing Rey's awareness of the sounds. She's feeling the lightsaber come toward her, so we hear it as if it's present. And
contrarily, she's dropping the lightsabers and she's not very present for what the lightsabers are up to, and they're very muffled.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that would, we're experiencing her filtered, muffled senses that are waning right now.
And if we're feeling that, does she know that Finn sensed her? In one of the novelizations, I was flipping through the young readers version and the normal one today.
Yeah.
It says that she reached out to Finn and Janna.
Mm-hmm.
And so she might be aware in this moment that Finn knew that she was dying.
I think it's handy that the last season of the show was Empire Strikes Back, so this is more recent than maybe it otherwise would be. But the scene toward the end when Leia senses Luke hanging on that weather vane, and I feel like it is like I felt like it was a clear sign that Leia is Force sensitive. So I was trying to get into the mindset of someone who was seeing these films for the first time in the 70s, in the 80s. And would that not have given away that Leia was Force sensitive? But then I learned that a lot of people interpreted that as more that Luke was the sending the Force message, and in order to receive it, maybe she had to be somewhat sensitive, but it wasn't necessarily a given that she was Force sensitive. It was more that Luke was the one sending the message. And so here, the same people who maybe thought that and maybe who believe that, if it's not explicitly mentioned, like it might not be enough proof for Finn because Rey is the one sending the message. And maybe she could send the message to anyone if she wanted to. Interesting that she sends it to Finn and Janna.
So it explicitly says to Finn and Janna, the only two probably Force sensitive people on her team
and I think that's also interesting that Rey doesn't barely knows Janna, but something in her, thought that sending it to Finn and Janna would be the right people to receive the message. So,
and then it says that she was going to reach out to Ben, but her strength gave out. So, I think it's interesting that apparently you can't just send out a single message that says, "Hey, everybody."
You can't do like a news
send
blast.
out a force distress signal.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's less effective, or maybe she just doesn't think of it that way. Because the force is about our connections,
Yeah, it's not doing a social media blast, I guess.
Yeah. And also, is this the smallest no when a Force mentor dies?
The smallest no?
Yeah. Because when Qui-Gon gets stabbed, Ben gives a big old no. When Obi-Wan gets stabbed, Luke gives a big old no.
Mm-hmm.
I guess arguably, Princess Leia dying.
Chewie gets a big.
No, that's true. That's true. Somebody screams no, and this one, Rey dies, and the most that you get is Finn very quietly, no, like a whispered.
Maybe it's like commensurate. Maybe it's like proportional to how much Force mentorship they've provided, which means there's a whole thing about Chewie that we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah. Maybe that is, yeah. There is always a no, I guess.
And maybe if you broaden it beyond Force mentors, that there's there's sometimes that there's not a no, but I think that this one is the smallest no that exists.
Yeah. I'll go with that. Okay, I'm going to continue.
If you have a counterexample, get in the comments or something.
Yes. So Rey, the state of Rey right now is she is laying on the ground, eyes open, dead face.
And is the Rey theme is still ending, right?
Yes. Let me go back slightly. And this is the B theme.
So then we have a subjectively loud sound.
Mm-hmm. Because we're no longer where Rey is.
Right. So I said the loudest thud when Ben grabs the ledge.
Yeah, and this part is interesting because if you listen to just the soundtrack, there is a timpani hit. You can't hear it in the movie because it is synced with the thump. So it is, yeah, it is.
Interesting.
Yep.
So the sound effect might be read as additional percussion. Like
maybe.
That the sound design adds to the soundtrack rather than to the sound of the scene.
I mean, I feel like if scoring to picture here, John Williams may have seen that there is like a reach, a thud on like visually, like there's a thing, and he may have been like, oh, we'll do a timpani hit there. Which wouldn't be the first time something like that has happened, certainly. But in the film, like you can barely even hear it. Like I don't think I can hear it. Well, let me go back. Like I can hear the thud, but not the timpani. Yeah.
So then I transcribed this little bit.
Okay. You see that you sent it to me. So explain what you have depicted here.
So this is this section I called Ben's ascent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not quite Mickey Mousing, but it is very metaphorical.
How so?
Slow, deliberately rising notes.
Yep.
It's and then yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And it sounds much better in the
And I'll add that there is space between the note changes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is sort of like mustering up effort for each like push. It's like
it's
yeah. Like it's almost like it's not just as opposed to like it's not like that. It feels very like it feels very effortful, the ascent.
Yeah, it's him climbing out of a bottomless pit.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a twisted ankle and at least 2 broken ribs. Per the novelization.
Ouch.
It's pretty good for a bottomless pit though.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think the lower notes underneath it feel like a weight on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like even as it's ascending, there's still a lot that's dragging, that takes 3 half notes to rise.
Right. And not all of the
That
notes
initial,
move at the same time. Some of them linger and don't want to move yet. Like,
yeah.
right there. There, the top one is Sting. And then the bottom one does move without the top one.
Right.
Interesting that we hear Kylo Ren's aggressive theme there. But it sounds sad.
We hear an untransposed Kylo Ren. Well, like not the
Redeemed theme.
redeemed version.
Right.
After we've heard so much of the redeemed version,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me wonder if John Williams just wanted the minor version here, or if perhaps this piece of the music was written before the idea to do a redeemed version, and it stuck. You know, it's hard to say.
In the last set of minutes, when I had James and Justin on, there was a statement of Kylo Ren's theme where I felt it was ambiguous whether it was the aggressive version, like the old version, or the new version. I felt that it started out one way and ended the other way, and it really wasn't like clearly one or the other. And I think here also just having the notes of the aggressive theme, but it's played lyrically and like sadly, it doesn't actually sound aggressive. So I would say that I don't know, like it could be that this is just the thing that fit the mood the best, because kind of like a happy heroic theme maybe isn't warranted here. And it could also be, I mean, I like the idea that the past, Kylo's past, is still with him. Like he's redeemed, but he's not like past expunged. And there probably is like part of his past that is worth saving too. Maybe a certain grit
and maybe
or something.
maybe that's the strength that he's calling on, is part of who he used to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's an interesting choice. And then we hear it a whole bunch and overlapping, and a few different, technically there are a few different versions, little melodic changes in the next few seconds.
Okay, I'll go back a little bit. It sounds like we're there where all the notes are. There are so many notes causing interference. Half steps rubbing against each other.
I wrote down that one too.
Okay.
Sorry. You can finish that section, and then I'll interrupt. Okay, there's a good spot.
To stop. Yeah, you can just text me all of the transcriptions and just.
Oh, but then I have to refer to which one you're supposed to.
It's okay. I can probably tell.
Okay. I don't trust my my transcriptions that much, but all right. I'll just send them all along.
Thank you. Okay, so what do you want to?
Great.
Okay, I'll put this next one up on, and we'll listen to it again. Okay, you said
Yeah,
woodwinds,
so-
Rey, turn, partial.
Yeah, so partway through all of these different versions of Kylo Ren's theme, or Ben's theme, depending on how you want to read it, there's a near quotation of part of Rey's theme.
Mm-hmm.
That's a D, right? Yeah. Did I write that? No, I read that right. Okay. Is
Yeah.
the part of Rey's theme, but we just get
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there is like, it's almost doing Kylo Ren's theme. Da, 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 da.
Mhm. It was right there.
Oh.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's da, 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 da. It's like it's an inner voice.
Yeah, it's in the woodwinds. That's
It's
That's
clarinet.
what
I think it's clarinet.
and somebody else is playing,
Yeah.
and somebody else is playing the E
Right. The strings.
that would finish that phrase.
Right. Right, right. Yeah, no, good catch. Definitely good catch.
But it's literally as he's picking up Rey.
Mhm.
And so it's almost this tiniest spark of her that he thinks might still be rescuable. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that. Shall I continue?
Yeah. Well, and then as this ends, then what are we? Where are we at timestamp wise?
This is 256.
Okay, so around 3:02, I have another
Okay.
note that I didn't transpose, or I didn't send to you.
So that crescendo. Nah.
With some percussion again. There's some timpanis to fill it out.
For sure. And the timpanis are what reverberate the most at the end.
Mm-hmm. So, is that
Reminds me of Ravel.
Oh, does it?
Mm-hmm. It might just be like, because I'm thinking of fourths on the French horn. Could be just a very crass, like. What were you going to say?
It reminded, because we're in this movie, there's a brief moment where I am like, oh, is that the Anthem of Evil melody? Because it starts with the
That's
Yeah.
funny.
but instead it holds that, and then
I mean, the thing is, those three notes. They're in lots of other
it could
themes
be
too.
anything.
It's also
I
tension.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That could be anything.
It's not a shoe-in, but you know, I was like, oh, is that Anthem of Evil? And it's like, no, it's just a different thing.
Yeah.
There's just 1, 3, 2.
Yeah. But I mean, so much of this cue sounds like every bit sounds like it's drawing from something familiar. I think it's actually like quite an interesting. It's quite interesting in that way. Like I think it's like, I think it's new. I think it's all new, but it feels so connected to so many things that came before it, which I think is like, I don't know how intentional that was, but like also it's just, it feels very, it's in the fabric of Star Wars, even though this is kind of a new kind of, I don't know, it's both new and old. Feels both new and old.
Yeah, this whole next section I have labeled as inverse immolation scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get into why I think it feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also obvious.
Yeah, I mean,
basically.
I'll say that like immolation scene has been mentioned in the past 3 episodes of this show. Like this whole like end section has had like moments from that. And also Barber Adagio, which means a connection to Barber Adagio for strings. Someone recently made a YouTube comment, like how I think comparing like Barber to Dies Irae, just in how like often it comes up. Oh yeah. Alf G says, we now know there are plenty of Dies Iraes in Star Wars movies, and here we have Barber's Adagios for strings. Now I'm trying to think of any other classical motives in Star Wars apart from Holst, just because like there's so much that feels like it either draws from that or that's part of John Williams's musical vocabulary or something. But anyway, yeah, there's just been so much longing and sad tragedy. Okay, continue playing. Oh, these suspensions.
Contrary motion.
Right. So Ben here has lifted Rey up in an embrace, and he is about to put his hand on Rey's abdomen and start to transfer his life force. So that's what's happening here. And I think this is actually, I love that we get this moment toward the end of the film where the music is really, it's really telling the story.
Right.
Yeah. Here's my crude transcription. Sorry. Like, we're not quite getting like a pure kind of release. We're going like suspension to suspension. Or like, you know, the chords are like here you would expect it to go. Sorry. But we go. Sorry. Like, so we're not quite getting like, there's still effort, and then it's like, you can hear his breathing. Okay, that's a very interesting part where it kind of goes up, it ascends, and then it kind of goes back down, almost like it's gathering strength or something, because then it's going to flourish into this romantic thing.
I referred to it as halting string chords. Just lots of like, it's almost trying to do something, but then it's getting almost waylaid from whatever journey it wants to go on.
Let's narrate that.
as if it's painful to move.
Yeah. Ben's meditating. Rey's eyes open. Or they've been open. What am I talking about? Okay. He's healing her, bringing her back to life. We've already gone past the point where now it starts to get romantic. This is past the point. You see us still on screen here where her hand is now on top of his. So when she puts her hand on top of his, that's when the music starts to grow again.
And it's playing her theme. Under transformation. Da,
Right.
da, 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 da.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's the most romantic I've ever heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear that again. Harp, timpani. So before, when it's like gathering, it's kind of gathering its strength. I think like writing wise, it's very good that like the strings have to climb up from the violins, they have to climb in order to make the really sing and stand out. You have to have something that starts out lower, so you have a place to come from. And so I think it makes sense to start lower so that you can end up higher for the. Yeah. It gives the effect of being able to climb higher without really having that much of the instrument to go with. Like even here, you can see in the transcription, there are moments where basically you have to feign going down. You have to go down a little bit in order to go back up to give something the sense of a crescendo or a climb. And in order to do that, you just have to drop sometimes. Like even here, it's going up and then it's. Down again. Down.
Yeah, I wrote down the string melody climbing while dropping down to tumble.
Mm-hmm.
It feels again like it's taking effort to reach the summit of the climb.
Mm. I do also feel like it's definitely less effort than when Ben is climbing. And I think I'm thinking that because
it's a different kind of effort, I would say.
I think I interpret it as maybe less effortful and more a relaxation, a freedom that gives the ability for more rapid motion.
Mm.
Because I feel like, and that it may be just because it's very, very playable. Like that, it could, I could be just projecting like how it feels to play it on the violin. Those drops to lower notes to begin to climb again. Mm-hmm. They're very easy. They're easy to play.
Well, I think as a non-violin player, I think that the ease of them feels correct. What I think I'm trying to describe is like, it's almost like dropping down to build up enough momentum
to reach it's more effort in that like you can't just do it in one push.
Yeah.
You have to take a breath and pick the speed back up.
Yeah.
And each of those drops is shorter than the last one because it's working. You know,
it's working.
First you have 4 notes. First you have 4 notes on the drop, and then you have 1 note or 2 notes on the drop, and then 1 note, and then the big suspendy chord on the end. I mean suspense, like tension.
Yeah.
It is a tense chord, not that it is a suspended chord.
Right. This feels very romantic with a capital R, classical romantic, right there. And
does it sound romantic lowercase r?
Yes, it sounds romantic, upper and lowercase.
Okay.
As so much of Star Wars does, it reminds me of Tchaikovsky. So many love themes by Tchaikovsky. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I want to say more about that because I don't have like a specific connection to draw other than like the second half or the main part of Romeo and Juliet obviously is one big thing to listen to. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's also one the John Williams fan, what's it called? JW fan. I didn't save the post, but like someone was comparing, not quite this exactly, but some romantic stuff in Star Wars to Tchaikovsky. And I think, yes, it's been discussed on previous episodes of the show, so I won't belabor it right now. But I think this part is interesting. And I have talked, this music I feel like this music fits this scene. I think there's another part of this movie where some of this music is tracked in, where it is less appropriate.
Oh, where was that? Do you remember?
This was, yes, I have it queued up. I'm going to play now from, we talked about this in TROS 13. Okay. 44 seconds into that.
I promise.
Rey's having
interesting.
She's touching Dagger. She's seeing her parents being taken. And let me play that from the soundtrack so you can hear how it comes into it differently. So this corresponds to, for considerations, soundtrack 9, hard to get rid of. 45 seconds. Okay, let me go back. In fact, the title of that episode of this show was Oddly Romantic because Darth Chaco in his notes, he was like, it sounds oddly romantic here. And I was like, yeah, this is the same music before the kiss. It does sound oddly romantic, doesn't it? Here, I would, if I had to guess, I would say this is probably what it was written for, not that other one.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that you're right there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it works still. It's like kind of an emotional climax of a moment, and Rey's like, flashback Rey.
Yeah.
But still, it feels it feels distinctly romantic, more than like, oh, my parents left.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought.
Because I think it really works here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I can also see why they tracked it in where they did, because it ending on that suspense
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, very effective.
Yeah.
And the build up to it and everything, but yeah, it is definitely romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says,
Let's listen. Okay, let's go back to that again. So
So-
she says Ben.
yeah, I transcribed this, by the way.
Okay,
It's the one with
I see it.
really crammed in chord
Yeah.
notations.
Mm-hmm. This is the bittersweetness incidental motif.
Oh, I left out the flats. Whoops. On
It's
those
okay.
E's.
This is bittersweetness incidental motif. It feels so related to so many other things. So I almost didn't catch that it was like in Frank Lehman's catalog. But I'm glad it is. I don't know how recurring it is. So I'm not sure about the inclusion of it, but I think it's useful because this is a long stretch of music. So it's useful to have some smaller chunks of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask what this motif was.
Right. You wrote F minor. Yeah. Yeah, basically.
And
Yeah.
then G9 for that chord.
Which one?
Or I guess G.
I feel like it's. I'm hearing it as more of like a. It feels related to like the part of.
What was that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, there's all very the 1 to minor 4 is a very romantic John Williams.
Yep.
And then this one doesn't go where it usually goes from there. But it's very built out of these 6th and 9ths and tensions that want to resolve.
Yeah. Han and Luke and Leia.
Leia and Han and Leia and
not Hera.
the Raiders' love theme.
Yeah. No, sorry. Okay. What is that? Han and Leia?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't sound quite right for that, but I know what you mean. It's the 1 minor 4. It's also just commonly used in. I hear it all the time in film music and in pop music and rock music. To great effect, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of a chord progression that just works.
Yeah, and I wrote down that it's a real that this because this is what actually plays under their kiss, right?
Yes.
Um,
Well, right before.
and I think this is before the kiss.
Well, okay. The kiss happens. I'll tell you where. Here. So part of it precedes it, and part of it is during.
Right. And then it ends that section. And I wrote it as a really restrained love song. It's like a love song that knows maybe more than the characters do that this is bittersweet is a good name for it.
Yeah, yeah. Bittersweet indeed. Like I didn't, because it is sad that he dies. Yeah. And then we have this, it kind of ends with this high D sustain, which is an inverted pedal point because it's the sustain note is higher than the melody instead of kind of. That's the only reason it's inverted.
Yeah. So I
thing.
transcribed this one too with the flute. And it ends with this D major with a moving top part of it. Oh.
Is this it?
Yeah. So I can't sight read. So
I don't think this is.
yeah.
Oh, I see. But not the flute part that came before it. Well. This part.
Yeah, that was what I wrote down.
Yeah, no, I thought you meant you were transcribed the part before that. Sorry, that's the end of the minute, so it just repeated. Yeah, so what that is another theme. It's Ben Solo's Redemption. Putting it on screen. I mean, technically it says here characteristic low brass chorale writing, first for Ben throwing saber into Endor Sea, then for his apparent death on Exegol related to bittersweetness. But I think what's happening before the brass is kind of telegraphing what the brass is going to do. Because here, what this is, and the other one is, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think brass chorales in Star Wars. Okay, there have been several of them in this movie, and then there are in The Last Jedi. There's also the main one that I remember, which is Leia sitting by the window, going into hyperspace. They feel. There's something about them that also feels rebellion, perhaps, like Pavane for a Dead Princess is always what I remember. But I'm going to perhaps play the other brass chorale that we get, the one for Leia. And I think we hear it again when she dies in this movie. Because it is similar to the one that Ben has here. Yeah, there's just something about, there's something, and I don't know if it's like the French horns playing in like this chorale voicing feels inherently sad, or if it just evokes so much music that came before it, where that I'm not sure what makes it work. Like maybe I'll play Ben Solo's Redemption again just to directly compare that. Like why does this work? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
something that sounds so sad about it.
I think it sounds almost funerary.
Is that what it is? Like it reminds you of military funerals or something?
I don't know if military funerals have that, but to me that's what it evokes for me. Culturally, it comes from somewhere, because that it feels so. It's almost like. So I actually was interested in this. How people die in other people's arms in Star Wars. What happens before, during, and after?
Are you noticing any? Do you notice any findings? Any similarities?
Yeah. So the ones that I compared were Qui-Gon's death in Episode 1. Do you want me to send you a?
Sure.
There's a YouTube if you want to listen to it, but I can also just tell you my findings.
Do you want me to play? I'll play it right now.
It's too late. No. Obi-Wan. Promise me you will train the boy.
Yes, Master.
He is the chosen one. He will bring.
Is that enough?
Actually, just keep going just a little bit further.
Okay. I'm just trying to break it up for the bots,
That's fair.
Train him.
Okay, we definitely have some French horn there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first we get a sad version of his theme, of Qui-Gon's theme.
Yeah.
A sad, slow version.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ends with the chorale is, it has sorry, yeah, or is that right? I can't trust my transcription. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not terribly dissimilar from
Yeah.
So then I got very interested in whether or not this shows up in Vader's death.
Nice.
Which does a sad version of Darth Vader's theme.
Mm-hmm.
And then and also has some halting string chords, like the Immolation scene as well, where it's
do you have a clip to send me?
And then I have so I do have a link to it, but it's long. I don't know how much of it
that I should responsibly
I don't have it queued up to the very ending.
Okay.
But it ends with as part of chords, and yeah, it ends.
Can you play it again?
It's F sharp, A, B.
So again, it goes up and then it goes a big leap down.
Right. And that shows up
in all three of them.
Yeah, so the first one, the Rise of Skywalker one was. And then this one was. And then the Qui-Gon one was, what was that again?
G-A-C.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
G-A flat C, I can't remember.
Something like that. I think it was, one of those. But yeah, it is a very similar shape. That is interesting.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I think that there's the chorales tend to be like, and this is true of both brass chorale and
Vocal.
Vocal chorales, because Qui-Gon is soon after followed with a funeral chorale.
Uh-huh.
The chorale is usually after the death.
Yes.
And I think that that's an interesting, like, I don't know what it means, what it signifies to us as listeners, or what function it serves. But there's this pattern of recognizing that the person is dying with their theme played slow and sad. And then kind of a small tag that is the point of their actual death. And then a warm place to almost in mourning of the person.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of when Padme dies. I mean, we do also get a funeral march afterward. She doesn't really have a personal theme, but do we hear Across the Stars?
I don't
Can't remember.
know for sure.
Yeah, but I think, okay, now, is there supercuts? Let me know, listeners, let me know if there's a supercut somewhere of main character deaths in Star Wars. I mean, obviously this one is not an every time sort of one. It's not for Yoda. It's not for Obi-Wan Kenobi. But there is something, I think it is interesting, the shape of the, like, going up a small step, like a half step or a whole step, or a minor third, and then going down like a big leap, like a sixth or a seventh or something. That is an interesting trend. I have to say.
And a small statement of
the character
brass
theme.
chorale.
Yeah, and brass chorale.
Because I think it's a very warm sound. I think it's a very comforting sound almost, while being tremendously sad.
Yeah,
and I wonder if that's, like providing a space to mourn in, like building a space for that.
So I don't think it would work if it were, if it were trombones, for example. Would it work if it were trumpets? Also, no. Would it work if it were a solo trumpet? Yeah, that would feel mournful to me, but not an ensemble of trumpets. But an ensemble of French horns, somehow, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, just...
But a brass, like a French horn chorale does not need to be sad.
Yeah, I suppose not.
Because I think that there are very triumphant sounding French horn ensemble pieces,
Sure, but I think also the chorale writing of it, like you could almost make this vocal writing, and there's like voice leading principles being used here. Like there's something about the writing of it that is also sad, but I'm thinking like if the same thing were written and performed on violins, would it sound as sad?
Right.
I don't know. I think there are other things that violins do that can sound sad. They would be probably written differently and probably not written as a chorale. They would probably be written as more of the Barber Adagio for strings type of thing. Like lots of suspensions and like maybe like I don't know, notes being pulled apart, like glue, like things trying to ascend, like really wide chords being created, like soaring. I think violins would be going up high, actually, and that would be sad. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm just kind of having a moment here of like, why does this work? But like, you know, this is kind of a challenge. Like, if you or anyone listening can find me examples of like French horn chorales that sound happy, please let me know, because I can't think of any. I can think of ones that sound like wistful, maybe. And I guess don't worry too much about like the chorale designation, but yeah, I guess like very French horn heavy things that sound happy. I don't know.
Yeah. So I have another getting to higher level.
Yeah, let's do it.
Comments. This one's still about the scene.
Okay.
About these minutes. Whenever there is a duality in any work, I have a habit of starting to look for chiasmic structures or X-shaped structures where things reverse at a midpoint and then like do all of the same
structure
steps in reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so this set of minutes has Rey's death, followed by Ben's ascent, followed by the inverse immolation scene, the healing moment, followed by Rey's ascent from death, and a metaphorical ascent. But I thought we also thought that Ben was dead. So,
right.
and then we have Ben's death after that, with an interruption for them to have a kiss. But
right. Would the chiasm also work if you count it from when Rey stabs Ben?
I don't know. I haven't like broken it down that wide. It gets harder and harder to maintain a chiastic structure the wider it is in time or in space if you're writing on the page. But it might. But there's definitely this turning point right at the center, where and over the course of it we have this reversal of fortunes in a very, very literal way.
Yeah, I mean it's very Romeo and Juliet, which now makes me think, oh, the Tchaikovsky Romeo and Juliet reference maybe actually is very apt.
Yeah, they kind of do the opposite of what Romeo and Juliet does, which is that they just miss each other in their trading off who's dead right now.
Right. This is significantly more.
But then they do the same thing of, but one of them now is dead.
Yeah, I mean, this is significantly more. There's more payoff here than in Romeo and Juliet, which is just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, here, Ben is doing what his father tried to do, save the one that he cares about.
His father or grandfather?
Sorry, grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, but here there is a price. He goes into it knowing that there is a price to pay. Like,
right. Actually, I was thinking
he can't
about this
create
recently.
life without any payment. He has to kind of maintain the balance.
Yeah. When I was actually thinking about this contrast because again, it's poetry and it invites
comparisons when they have such similar themes and events, and so when there's a difference in the outcome, you know, it really asks you why is it different this time?
Yeah.
You know, the cosmology of Star Wars does not allow Anakin to be happy. So what is his sin against that cosmology that prevents him from saving Padme?
Right. And I think it's that he wants to have it all.
Right.
No sacrifice.
In direct contrast, he fails to save Padme and stays alive.
Right.
Even though he should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And here, Ben is willing to sacrifice being alive in order to save Rey.
Right.
And so he dies, even though he should be alive. And it's yeah.
I mean, Anakin is trying to do what Sidious told him was possible, which was cheat death.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to cheat. Ben is doing more of a barter. He's not trying to steal life.
Right. And he's acting selflessly.
Right.
Because it's actually, this is another thing that's, I like how little dialogue there is in the movie about this.
Me too.
But the book does provide possibly some glimpses into what the intention was, or just one interpretation of the events. But I found it illustrative that it's told from Ben's perspective that, and this is actually probably combining things from both novelizations.
Both versions of yeah, that's okay.
But he regrets the fact that everyone who tried to help him is dead at that moment. And that he is confident that that he doesn't deserve to be alive, and that Rey does deserve to be alive. And I think that that's not an attitude shared by Anakin.
For sure.
Like he wants to be the most powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it is about, he should be allowed to keep people from dying.
Right.
Not he is willing to keep people from dying. You know?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he had a explicitly romantic relationship with Padme, I can see why, like, he wants her to be alive because he wants to spend more time with her. He wants time with her.
It's out of attachment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas this is out of not attachment.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So there's also something like, I guess if you got into the mechanics of this and tried to like D&D this or make this into a role-playing game with mechanics, like Rey does bring him back to life. I don't know if he actually, though I don't know that Ben necessarily completely died ever. I think she healed his wound probably before, because then it's like, well, how come Rey didn't die or collapse after that? She still was fine. They did kind of, she said she transferred some of her life energy to the serpent, the Vexus. And so I think they were trying to say that it does take some out of you. But I'm just trying to think of like why Rey seemingly had so much more reserves. And it could be that she just didn't have to bring him from as extreme of a death or injury as Ben did.
Yeah, well, I think she was just healing him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, again, what the novelization implies. Also, that he has never done this before. And that he only knows how to do it because he saw her do it. Or as one of the novelization puts it, but she had shown him how to give.
Yeah, which is both literal and symbolic.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So then while we're on this part of the movie, what do you think of the kiss?
Oh yeah, the topic of this episode, of course. I like the kiss, and I liked it during my first viewing. At first, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it resolved within like seconds, and I think I was like, yeah, I like this. Why do I like it? Well, I like that it wasn't. It felt. It didn't feel like it came out of nowhere for me. I felt like the last two movies, there's been like a tension between them rising, and it felt kind of like a relief to me that we didn't see their, I don't know, I don't want to say like feelings for, like it might be feelings for each other. It might be like the intensity of what they've been through and just it coming out in the form of a kiss. I felt relieved that there was some consummation, that there was some acknowledgement physically of their journey together. And I liked that better than if they had like denied it in some way. Like that would have been annoying to me.
Would you have liked it as much if Ben didn't die?
So I think I liked it partially. I think I would think I was allowed to like it because Ben died. Yeah. So I think I would have been more conflicted if Ben didn't die.
Mm-hmm. And what about Ben's redemption?
What did I think about his redemption?
Yeah. How earned did it feel? Did it feel consistent with the rules of Star Wars?
So I think Ben, from the very first sequel trilogy movie, The Force Awakens, I think Ben's relationship to the light and dark side felt new to Star Wars. So it follows that I think his redemption also felt new, but only because his whole relationship to light and dark felt new. I did feel like within that track that we had already established that it did feel earned. And it satisfied me. And I know some people kind of wish that they stuck with Kylo being like leaning into being the bad guy. I don't think that would have been earned or warranted. I would not have liked if Kylo just exploded into more of a bad guy, because in The Force Awakens, we see the seeds of him still battling with wanting to be light. The whole trilogy, he's trying to be darker than I think his nature is. It's not coming easily to him, I don't think, all the time. And that would have really felt forced. And I'm so glad that they didn't go there. I'm so glad that he was redeemed in this movie. Now, I do think there is something about redemption in Star Wars where I'm not sure how I like the poetry of him dying and kind of doing Rey the favor that she did him and, being selfless and everything. But I also kind of wish it didn't have to be that redeemed villains have to die, have to pay the price so quickly. I wish it were more possible. I wish it felt more possible for people to be redeemed and then to continue to live more of a life. Because it feels like Star Wars is like, you can redeem yourself if you also sacrifice your life. And I feel like Vader sacrifices, like, and we, in the Bad Batch, there was like all this talk of like, well, can can Crosshair redeem himself? Like maybe Crosshair should die saving Omega or something. And I remember feeling vehemently like, why does Crosshair have to die? Can we just have him redeem himself? And like, not just, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it becomes complicated because Star Wars is an opera and it's a family drama. And it's also, where's the trappings of fighting against fascism? And so it's also that. So like, can Darth Vader, the war criminal, be redeemed? Maybe not. Can Darth Vader, the bad father, be redeemed by his son? Yes. There's and depending on which one you're reading Star Wars through, I think that's where it gets complicated, where if you consider the actual actions that somebody took, it can be really hard to feel like you can forgive their actions. Like, I don't know, suppose that Kylo Ren had been left alive. Does Rey take him back to the Resistance base? And how does Finn feel about that? And how does Poe feel about that? And how is it possible for Ben to become part of this society that he has been literally in charge of oppressing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that he can. But at the same time, if we're looking at it as this is a metaphorical corruption and fall to evil, like if Kylo Ren is you,
right,
then of course you want there to be a redemption possible for the bad guys.
And that's why I side with like wanting bad guys to be redeemed, because I think I always identify with them. I don't like hardcore identify with them, but I do feel like as a kid or as someone watching these movies, I would want to know that if I make a mistake or a lot of really, really bad mistakes, I can still have a chance to turn it around. Because I think without that knowledge, I might just want to do really bad things to myself to escape the pain of or lean into the badness, since I know that there's no actual redemption anyway. It just makes me like fearful. Like I would like to know that I'd still have a chance. Like I just feel like always having hope, always having a chance, even if I've made a mistake, is something that maybe the child in me has always needed to know. And I think like for Star Wars to kill off redeemed characters is convenient because it allows us to not deal with those issues that you brought up. It allows Star Wars to not have to take a stance on like, so what do we do to, Star Wars does do this. I'm not saying Star Wars doesn't take a stance. Star Wars has prisons and everything, but like, would they make Ben Solo serve time? Like, would Star Wars double down on like a carceral system would Star Wars be like, actually, we're going to do like more like rehab integration into society? Like that is maybe something that is maybe too hard to tread. So it's easier to not have to deal with the aftermath, but
yeah, I think it's part of why Star Wars ends up so messy. Is because sometimes the stories that they're telling are supposed to be like the real world. Like I think in Andor,
I don't know that anybody can be redeemed, the good guys or the bad guys. Like, you know, because they're all, and I don't know that redemption exists in Andor. I don't know that that's like part of the game in the way that it's presenting the world as very grounded and everything is political and, you know, like, and hard choices are constantly being made. Versus in Return of the Jedi, I really think that like Luke's storyline in that is to embody a kind of radical forgiveness where he does forgive his father, and that is what saves his father, is that he refuses to take retributive justice,
Right.
even though it is in every way deserved, you know? And that's why Anakin is shown to have come back from the dead, or to you know, to be a Force ghost at the end, is because in that lens, in the story of radical forgiveness that George Lucas was trying to teach to 12-year-olds, that is Luke's reward for being able to forgive his father, you know, not Anakin's reward for killing the Emperor and therefore nullifying all of the sins that he did, all of the murders that he did.
Right.
You know,
no, that's a good point.
It's not actually about Anakin's story when Anakin is redeemed.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I do think that this one is, I think it's more complicated for people because it is more of Ben's story than Darth Vader's story is Anakin's story. You know?
Yeah, I do think it's also very rewarding for Rey because she's been pulling for Ben all along.
Right, and she's been one of the only ones to believe in him.
Yeah. There's a kind of
and,
like... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. That's you.
No, I was going to like change topics.
Okay.
You had
Go
one
ahead.
more thing to say.
Oh, well, I was just thinking about also some of my feelings at the time were that there were lots of relationship dynamic outcomes that I was rooting for, some of which were contradictory.
Yeah. And you never told me how you felt about the kiss. I would like to know.
I was sitting next to somebody who was very against it vocally in the theater. Just a whispered no as it happened. Yeah, sorry. I wanted Ben to be redeemed and Rey to end up with Ben if Finn and Poe ended up together. Which this movie seems to have tried fairly hard to take no stance on.
Right.
Kind of gone out of their way to not make that choice. And so I was a little bit annoyed at both killing Ben and not confirming any other outcome, almost in reaction to, like, I read it as trying not to make anybody mad about the outcome. And I don't know how much that is true, you know, or if it was just
they didn't want to have a romantic story overtly, but that having her kiss Ben and then also kill him takes away the need to take a stance on it, because no, she did kiss Ben, and also he's dead, so
we don't have
that's
to. Yeah,
that's not an ongoing question.
Yeah. Problem solved.
But also, and that could be for multiple reasons. It might not be due to trying to please the fans. It might also just be, we only have 1 minute to tie up a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Okay. I mean, I do think
I felt mixed about it at the time. Now I mostly like it.
Mm-hmm. I think when they all hug at the end, not Ben, it makes me feel polycule vibes for sure.
I mean, that's one read, but to me, it did read as
faux.
You're just refusing. No, you're just refusing to choose.
Yeah.
They're all hugging at the end.
Yeah.
Equal hug.
It is a very equal hug at the end. That is true. That's funny.
It's like, we don't know what stories we're going to tell in the future. We want to keep all of them equally on the table. We're not committing to anything right this minute.
Yeah.
Or they're all in a polycule.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah, I suppose a Star Wars author could at least add in something in a book on like feelings that Poe and Finn have for each other. I don't know. What I was going to say was like completely different, changing topics completely, which is in this set of minutes, we are really seeing the climax of this, or I guess the fruits of this very two-pronged approach to everyone winning here. One is Rey doing the Force stuff to get rid of the Emperor. The other is what Poe and Finn are doing with the Resistance fighters, and the thing with the Janna, with the thing that you connect the hacking the thing and it shoots on itself. And I don't know if this is a problem with me or with the relative complexity or difficulty of writing stories like this, but I always find it so much harder to understand the military strategy versus the like Force, the Jedi strategy. Like I feel like and this is not just this movie, this is like all the Star Wars movies. It's like what the Jedi are doing, I understand. I get what's happening. The thing about like having all of the military strategy just goes over my head, and I have to continually like relook it up to be like, oh yeah, okay, right. They're finding the thing to shoot at the thing. Like I don't know. Like the only one that's really clear to me is the battle droid one in episode 1.
What about the trench run?
That also was only somewhat clear to me. It was not super clear to me growing up. Yeah. I knew that Luke was flying into a thing to hit a thing, but I was like somehow never interrogated. I just took it as it was, as I was seeing on screen, and could never articulate to someone what the strategy was, like until years later.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is it me?
Well, I think that this movie has one of the least clear objectives for a military thing, or the most one of the most okay, I'm just going to go through the movies one by one and just enumerate it. So in episode 1 you have one group fighting Darth Maul. The Jedi are fighting Darth Maul.
Got that.
And you have the Phantom Menace is the most complicated one. You have a group fighting Darth Maul. You have a group trying to capture the Viceroy by going through the palace. You've got a group fighting battle droids, and their goal
is to draw all of the military to one battlefield so that there are fewer battle droids at the palace so that the other thing works. Their secondary goal is to not die while doing it, but their goal is not to destroy all the battle droids. Because that is the air battle, the space battle.
Okay, let me stop you for a second. Are you explaining this so that I understand?
No, I'm explaining it so that to see like how clear the objectives are.
Okay, just making sure.
So that one is the one that George Lucas, that's what he's referring to when he says, I may have gone too far in a few places. Mm-hmm. He's referring to how many steps that plan involves. Episode 2, the clones show up, or I guess the Jedi show up to arrest the conspirators, and then the battle droids show up to arrest the Jedi, and then the clones show up to fight the battle droids, and then they chase Count Dooku. The war is mostly backgrounded, although there was originally more stuff with another droid control ship and layers upon layers of stuff. But episode 3 is several lightsaber battles in different places. And so that one's all just the Force people. Just Obi-Wan and Anakin versus
So you're saying some of the
Yoda
movies
and
just don't
Sidious.
have as much of the military stuff anyway.
Yeah, so some of them just don't have as much.
And I will say it doesn't get in the way for me of understanding and being moved by the movie. Like my inability to understand exactly what's going on in the trench run did not hinder me liking Star Wars. The music, I think, was taking me on the ride enough where I'd be like, I don't understand what the strategy is, and maybe I keep missing the lines of dialogue where they say, hit the thing, or, here where the strategy comes out in like bits of fast dialogue where it's like, yeah, we'll do that. And that's parts where my brain tunes out. But the music at least tells me whether we're doing a good move or doing a bad move. And that's fine.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, the trench run is the most linear. Go to the Death Star, go down the trench, shoot the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do a similar one in The Force Awakens, but I think that it's significantly less clear visually. It's not as linear. It's a few steps more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also B and C plots, or at least a B plot with Rey and Finn versus Kylo. The Last Jedi puts it all in one place.
Sort of.
It's just hold them off and then hold them off in a different way with a Jedi trick this time.
Sure, but there's still space stuff happening, and still when there's space skirmishes.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't maybe have a point with that. Just naming that everything happening outside of the auditorium was like, okay, yeah, cool, sure.
Yeah, for me, it becomes the most just sort of noise of these, because the geography of it does not make so in good action storytelling, I think it's very helpful to have your characters are moving this way if they're getting closer to success, and they're moving this way if they're getting further from success.
Mm-hmm.
So the trench run in that way is very easy to read, because if they're going that way, then they're getting closer to winning. And if they're getting blown up, they're not getting closer to winning. So that's bad,
Right.
And here, because everything is kind of more of a cloud of geography, like there's a tower down here, there's a spaceship up here, there's other spaceships are all around here, the good guy spaceships are coming in from over here. There's not as linear a story to tell. So like I see ships flying around and I don't know if they're winning or losing.
Right. I mean, we just
based
know
on the way that they're flying.
Right. We're relying on dialogue cues.
Right. They have to tell me how the battle is going.
Yeah.
Which makes the battle less visually interesting to me.
That makes sense.
But the stuff down on the planet, very easy. I mean, it's very good geography. If you're getting close to the Emperor, that's where you're winning, you know? Like there's a lot of fighting, like Kylo Ren or Ben is running toward Rey and the Emperor. He's got a direction to be traveling in. When the Knights of Ren stop him from making that progress, that's a bad thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I don't have like a grand point about it, except that I really appreciate good action or I really appreciate great action. And I think that this movie has okay action. I don't feel as much emotion at the Citizens Fleet showing up as I want to have.
Did you the first time you watched it?
No.
Well, no, because you also were not enjoying it the first time you were watching this movie, right?
That's true. Yeah. The first time that I watched it, I didn't much enjoy the movie. There were things that I liked about it, and there were things that really ate at me about it. I've since rewatched it, and it's not my least favorite Star Wars movie. So
I think, so like the Citizens Fleet works less on me every time I watch this movie, probably. But that's because I'm probably not paying attention as well as I ever did when I was like in the theater. But I will say like it really worked on me the first time. So the only reason it wouldn't work on me is just because like I already know it's gonna happen now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's my impression of the movie is that there are missing scenes, which is not to say like they deleted scenes or they intentionally left something out or anything. Just that or that they should have noticed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when you're writing a story or a movie, it's often not until you've cut the whole thing together that you realize that there are things that are missing. Like the things that, we do need some sort of transition there emotionally. Or, it's not clear what's going on in this scene, so we're going to need to get a couple of shots of a hand reaching down to touch a switch, you know?
Right.
And that's a normal part of movie making, that you have reshoots. Where you bring in all the actors and you shoot a couple more scenes that smooth out the movie. But it's often really expensive to do the reshoots. And so you have to pick and choose what you can get. And I think for me, there is a missing scene of Lando rallying people to the cause that I think could be very emotional, because the impact of them all showing up at once relies on it being a surprise. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the surprise is as good as it could be without more anticipation. Like you could show Lando trying to rally people.
It's more like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, I mean, it is set up. It's not a complete out of nowhere save. They do know that Lando is going to go and try and rally people.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see why it worked when Lando did it and not when they sent out a distress signal from Crate.
Right.
In The Last Jedi. Not because I don't think that it would. It's just because I think emotionally that would be so good to see people hesitant to join, and then Lando convincing them, because I think that Lando could convince them, you know. Mm-hmm. Charm is his greatest asset, I think.
Right.
Um,
So,
So for me, the Citizen's Fleet, for instance, doesn't land as well as I want it to as an audience member, because I can
fair.
tell I'm supposed to feel a big thing here about everybody coming together and there still being hope, even though it seemed like there was no hope, and that the reason that there's hope is because all of these individuals are making a decision to fight back. You know,
Yeah.
it's all very good stuff that I want to believe in.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks to be watching a movie and to know that that a thing is supposed to affect you and it's not working. Happens to me a lot, I think. Yeah. So I'm sorry you had that experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it is less impactful for you every time.
I mean, that's not something I guess, I think if I were really invested in watching it like continually with no interruptions, I think I would still be impacted by it. Yeah, especially if I took time before my next watch. But yeah, I'm glad that you're not hating it as much as you did at first. You said something about psychic
I really wanted
damage.
to love it. Yeah. I walked out of the movie theater feeling like it had actually hurt me in a profound way. Because I was so excited for it, and it turns out that I wanted it to be a thing that it isn't. And I think I have come to terms with what it is. And I did my best to take it on its own terms originally, but
Yeah.
I didn't love Rey Skywalker. I didn't love a lot of just small things throughout that just made it hard to enjoy the experience.
Yeah. You're certainly not alone. Do you have any more notes for the set of minutes? I'm pretty much done.
I'm that's it for me.
Okay. Then I think we can do the Star Wars Music Minute Questionnaire.
Oh, I am not prepared for it.
Okay.
But
Well,
go ahead.
actually, first I need to say the theme, the stats. Okay. The musical themes from
Okay.
these minutes were Force theme, Victory, Rebel Fanfare, Rey A phrase, Rey B phrase, Kylo Ren aggressive, Bittersweetness, and Ben Solo's Redemption. And then in the soundtrack, The Force is with you, Farewell, and then if you have the For Your Consideration soundtrack, this is tracks 21 and 22, Rescue and Farewell. So now it's time for the Star Wars Music Minute Questionnaire. And I will ask you the question and tell you your old answers after your new answer, or be right before.
You can tell before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question number 1, in exactly 3 words, what does Star Wars sound like? Previously, you have said California radio voiceovers. In Solo season, you said actually close enough. Empire Strikes Back season, you said colorful, roller coaster, crosstalk.
Oh, interesting. So I think that I've been answering this for the
Movie.
minutes for the movie that I'm currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
So what does The Rise of Skywalker sound like? I think The Rise of Skywalker sounds like oh, sorry. This is so hard. Why do I always put this off? It's like it's
What about
mature score
ampersand, which doesn't count as a word.
Okay.
Semicolon then. Give me a semicolon.
Okay.
Semicolon. Improv.
Oh, interesting. Can you explain?
Yeah, so I watching it this last time, I feel like there was a lot more, especially sort of comic improv from the actors, like more scenes where, especially early on with the gang, Finn and Rey and Poe and others, that there's this spontaneity to a lot of their dialogue where it's more like they had, here's a direction of things that you need to be talking about, but it's wide open to you how to do that. And I don't know if that's what happened, but it is how it's acted.
Right. I mean, I agree with that. I talked about that on Star Wars Minute. I think I would love to know if that scene in particular was improvised.
And then as far as the crisp score, I think
you said mature score.
Or mature score, right? Mature score. I feel like this is true of John Williams, just across time, that he is trying different things now than he was when he started writing Star Wars music, and then, the prequel trilogy. And I think here in this movie, it feels like there's more subtlety in what he's doing than when he started Star Wars.
Interesting.
And also, like, it's more nuanced and it's more steady-handed. He's less likely to take big swings and more likely to just confidently very deftly write, like his themes seem less overtly heroic. They feel less, it's a different way that he's writing this movie versus the earlier ones.
Yeah.
And most so in this movie compared to the other ones in the sequel trilogy.
Okay. Question number 2. What is something related to Star Wars music or sound that you want to learn more about? Previously, you have said... do you want to know what you previously said?
Okay. Tell me what I previously said.
You said the making of one musical cue from start to finish. You said you're also curious how music notation works in Star Wars. Also about the various vocal effects used for aliens and the glissando lizards. Which was an Empire Strikes Back jungle.
I remember that.
Swamp,
I think I would like to know how the scoring process was done on the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Because how many hours of music did John Williams write for this movie? Total. I've heard like in the ballpark of 3 hours.
Something really, really long that is not represented in the movie.
Yeah, there's like an hour and a half of music that's actually in the movie. And at least 3 hours that he wrote for this movie. And I want to know why. Like, why did he write so much music? Was it just because he felt the need to keep writing a whole bunch of stuff? Or was it because things were changing? Or was it because things were
was that iterative 3 hours? 3 hours, but it's mostly the music that you heard in the movie with variations on a lot of those cues. Or was it he scored more of the movie than ended up being needed, or that he scored for scenes that ended up not existing?
Rewritten, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I would really like to have the breakdown of what that 3 hours is and how it got there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious too. You previously, oh no, I already told you that. The last question is, what is a score or soundtrack that you're fond of besides anything Star Wars? You've previously said Knives Out, The Village, and Looper.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, I did 2 of his scores, huh?
Yeah, 2 of Nathan Johnson's.
I'm trying not to do really obvious ones. But I have to say one that's in my heart, and there's two musical scores that I've been thinking about recently. And so either The Lord of the Rings as an entirety.
Mm-hmm.
We can count.
Yep, you can do that.
3 movies as a single soundtrack. Or I guess, no, this one's apt. When's this one coming out?
In a few weeks. In a couple weeks.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe Muppets Christmas Carol.
Nice.
Which has a lot of French horn chorale.
Who composed that? Paul Williams?
I think it's Paul Williams at least did the songs. I'm not sure.
Okay, the film's original score was composed by Miles Goodman with songs written by Paul Williams. So would you say both of those?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Oh, wait. So sorry, am I
When
saying
I credit
both scores?
I mean, I'll say both scores, but for the Muppet Christmas Carol, like sometimes people are like, I mean the soundtrack versus the score.
Oh, I'm doing the score and the soundtrack.
Okay.
The score quotes a lot of the songs, and really supports the songs in their place.
Nice.
Foreshadows them and brings them up again, like motifs from them later, so that you know what emotion is attached to this scene. It's good.
It's good stuff.
I am losing light, aren't I?
Yeah, you are. But that's okay, because now we are technically done. Before you leave, though, tell the good people of Star Wars Music Minute listenership where to find you and your work online.
You can find me on decreasingly on Twitter and increasingly on Blue Sky and probably some other places, or at AurekFonts.github.io. And I'm also doing some work with, let me double check the URL for this, with my friend Louis. We're working on making fonts for his type company, crowntype.com.
Nice. Also, Ender and Louis created a really good Star Wars font.
That's true.
Called Womp Rat.
Yes, it's called. Yep, and you can get that at. Yeah, you should. If you have a podcast.
.xyz. Right?
Yes, that one too. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, if you have a podcast and you need to make thumbnails, use this font. Ender complains all the time about seeing thumbnails with really bad Star Wars fonts.
It's
and then-
fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I know. That's no overstatement. But and then also you have just released, or you're holding ransom at the moment, your Max Rebo inspired font, which is very cool. So
Yeah.
check that out. I'll put a link to whatever, if it's whatever the current state of it is.
I'll send you all the links.
Yeah. Basically Ender will release it once it's funded. So if you want to chip in to donate to that, it's actually so cool.
And I'm also sending it to anybody who contributes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you want to get it early, then you can contribute. Yeah. It's so pretty. I really like it. I guess Star Wars Music Minute is on some of the social media platforms, newly on Blue Sky, still on Twitter, also decreasingly, but still there for sure. Also, let me know if you want merch for Star Wars Music Minute. Ender made this. It's not for Star Wars Music Minute, but comment if you want Ender to make Star Wars Music Minute some merch. And then also, I always forget to plug this, but if you want to ask me a question to answer on the show, and you can write to me in the normal ways, but you can also leave a voice message at StarWarsMusicMinute.com/comlink. You can record your voice asking a message, asking a question, or making a comment or something, and I might play it on the show if you do that. And finally, if you become a patron, then you can join my Discord server where we talk about Star Wars and music, and it's a good time. You should do that. That's all we have for today. I'll be back next week to discuss minutes 126 through 130 of The Rise of Skywalker. Thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.